I don't want to get too technical with the things because I don't even really know that much about it. Um, but this is like this style. Like I think even for you've seen this kind of package before, you
Yep.
know. I think even maybe your Happy Trails from Global Tiad or something was one of these.
Yeah.
It's a Kunming Factory 7581 tea brick.
Hmm.
And so, 75 being the year that it was produced, or at first, you know, the recipe was created in the first production was in 75, and then 8 is the average leaf grade, so it's larger average leaf grade, and then 1's the factory. In this case, would be a Kunming Factory.
Cool.
So what's unique about this one specifically is that because there's so many of these in the world, like this is a style of tea. Like there are so many of these bricks out there, but just like with most tea, especially factory production teas, not all are created equal. Not all have old material, not all have like high quality material. It's mostly rough, a recipe, just like the Munghai tea factory productions and all that stuff. So this is a lighter fermentation style for a Shou Puerh. It's from 1999. That's the estimate that they were able to come up with. Sorry if there's too much sprinkling, but
It's like Christmas.
yeah, it's very clean. Like it doesn't really can't really smell like any storage smell or anything. I think it seems like I'm not familiar with the area that it was stored in, but it seems to have been like a pretty balanced storage. Like it had enough humidity for it to age nicely, because I haven't had this in a while, so it'll be interesting to see what it's like now. But I remember the last time I had this, it was very it had a really pleasant sweetness, and it pours darker than what I'm used to from teas that are described as light fermentation. But I think it's because it's just aged nicely and it's really gotten some depth. So yeah, and something that stuck out to me about this tea is that even though it's a Shou Puerh, because it's had a lighter fermentation, you still get that like complexity that you get from like an aged Shou Puerh. Like you get more of the liveliness and the vibrancy in the mouth. So yeah, that's kind of some of the background info I wanted to share about it before we have it.
Nice. Thank you. Well, it was a great aroma. It's got a menthol quality
Yes,
for
like
me.
for I still have to enough in here. It breaks apart nicely. Like it's definitely the leaf material broken down from the aging, which is nice because it's packed. The cake was pressed very nicely, where it comes off in these like thinner leaf-like flakes. Is really nice, satisfying texture.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly. It's not like a dense chunk Unlike
No,
some
no.
teas, it's light and probably that's because of the larger leaf size, right? At least in
Yeah,
large.
yeah. The, the larger the leaf, I've noticed like the, the it disintegrates quicker, you know. And so it does what, like when you pour it, it pours, you can get a nice rich pour. Especially for people that like, you know, like a deep, they like some depth with their tea. So I'm just rinsing mine now. Oh yeah, that is awesome. Wow. Yeah, there's like an incense quality. This is there's definitely an age
Cedar,
character these songs. So yeah.
because it's not
Oh,
like it definitely doesn't have that like wet forest, dark earth. It's like it has a lighter. I mean, we keep saying this word light for different reasons, but it reminds me more of like a garden bed or something, like peat moss or
yeah.
something fluffy.
Yeah, it is more mossy than,
Hmm.
I wouldn't say it's deep ancient forest, but you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like a really uh like maybe like a Scandinavian cabin. Like the smells I'm smelling, it's
Yeah.
like there's like the fresh
Yeah,
smells, like
yeah,
piney, like yeah, like
like
cedar.
freshly cut wood, basically. Yeah,
Yeah, freshly
yeah,
cut wood is it? Yeah, but also like freshly cut wood, but also like some, you know, nice furniture, like a nice
yeah. It's
wooden
cozy.
table. Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Well, that's great.
Good indicators.
Yeah, you don't always get that with tea. Synopsis, it smells great. I smelled, there was like a dankness to it in a good way, like a
Mm.
slight, there's definitely some humidity in the storage. Slightly, just a slight, what I call like a jungle quality. Like there's a, there is like a ripeness a little bit, like I almost like smell like notes of like cannabis or something a little bit more slightly spicy, slightly, I don't want to say skunky, but like just a little bit more like of a dankness not from like I would say storage, but just like the actual vibrancy of the leaf. It has like this like
Right.
it's not so wet like you said, but it because it has that like freshness, but it's like it does have some juiciness or something.
Well, we shall see. Brew is very clean. Good color.
And got some extra water. And I'm gonna need it. I got a pitcher, a fairness cup of, well, yeah, so that we can see like the actual color, which is, oh yeah, here's, are you on the first steeping?
Yeah, yeah. I did a rinse. Well, you did a rinse too.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it wakes up really quickly is one thing that I notice off the bat. Like unlike a first steeping we were talking about of, you know, like a more tightly compressed tea.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very mature first steeping, I would say. Like it, because it already has a lot of flavor represented in it.
Yeah. I mean, if this is the first steeping, then you just know the rest is going to be good. I feel like some teas just, especially when they're denser, the cake is denser, it's like harder. It's gonna take a while to open up. Sometimes with aged teas, I'll kind of like position them in my pot a certain way where I have like a chunk or two at the bottom and then some crumblies on top. But for this, I mostly use just like, because it flaked off so nicely, it's just ready. I don't have to do all this other stuff. It's just ready to go.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd say already, even for someone that is not, that maybe is still learning like how to be confident.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it's
comfortable
just as it's just as accessible as like a loose leaf, a Liu, you know, it's just from the first steeping on, you don't need to concern yourself so much about brew times and waking it up. And
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, it's very approachable for pretty much anyone at any level, but I would say that this is pretty special in terms of the way that, you know, it's not like they just like heavily fermented this tea and you're getting this like super dark tea that like kind of is, you know, you get like a satisfying almost coffee like pour, but you don't get the complexity. Whereas this, I feel like you get the complexity, but you also get the satisfying depth, which is more often than not, since I have tea regularly, I'm looking for something that I'm really going to enjoy. Also, like the flavor, like I've always prioritized the effect, like how it's going to make me feel. But now I also want to have like something that's like tasty, and I feel like this is like a delicious tea.
it's really nice. But yeah, it's a beautiful color. And this second brew, like in the first brew, there was a little bit of dust, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, but this second brew is like 100% clean.
Yeah, look how beautiful that color is. Like you could see clarity, even though it's dark.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, you could, there's like that reddish quality that
Warming.
yeah, that's something I noticed. I guess it was earlier this year when I was having it, that it was warming. I noticed that. So it's good for this year, this time of year, which is, we're in December right now.
Yep.
The oil, it has nice oils, like it lingers pleasantly in the mouth and tongue. I could see this being really good, especially for like after a meal. Like it's good. This is a good time for me to have it because, you know, I had breakfast and had some time for it to settle, and now I'm having this tea. I feel like it's like, it's nice.
I would say it's round. You know, it's not wet. It is wet, wet and round.
Yeah, I'd say it's balanced in I'd say it's like somewhere in the middle between wet and dry. but maybe
Right. Yeah.
just maybe
It doesn't feel drying, I think is a better way to say it.
it's like 60. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's drying you up.
Right.
You know, it like I feel like a good balanced tea, you know, it might lean a little more drying, you know, like removing excess dampness, but you can also have that removing the excess dampness with just a little bit more of a kind of lubricating quality. I feel like this leans a little bit more towards a soothing, lubricating quality, which is something to consider. I feel like for certain types of people, depending on their constitution, they might want to have more of a drying tea versus a more lubricating tea. But I feel like most of us probably could benefit from something
Lubrication.
that's going to be soothing and lubricating in a balancing way, which because and you can also, I feel like I experience like the medicinal, there's a medicinal quality to this tea where um, there's a certain quality that I associate with Chinese medicine, like certain smells that like certain herbs. And I feel like I smell that kind of aspect with this tea.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I'm sure many people have heard of like the eight treasures. There's like the Chinese date is one of the main herbs in there, and it has this like specific quality that it's a date, but it's a specific type of date, and it does have a like slight spiciness, woodiness, sweetness that I associate also with Christmas for some reason. Like
Yeah.
kind of like cinnamon, like when you have the right combination of tree and spice, there's like a in sweetness you get like a certain maybe a solstice, winter solstice kind of vibe. When I smell, because I've kept my lid on this pot in between brewing,
Mhm.
uh, I can smell the still that like mentholated quality and the pininess, almost like the Liu Bao, because with the Liu Bao processing, there's like the firing, they're firing the wok with the pine. I feel like however they produce this tea, in whatever material they use, like they took some care with it, that I just feel like is like slightly above other kind of similar 7581 bricks I've had. And you can see here on the wrapper, it says 99.
Mhm. I feel like again on the spectrum of energizing to relaxing, I feel like this tea is somewhere in the middle too.
I agree. I feel like what I'm feeling just now is this is like has a focusing quality. I feel like you could apply this to many different types of activities. Like you could meditate, you could read a book, you could do some computer work, you could go on a walk, or you could just have a nice tea session and just enjoy
Right.
this tea. And
Write some poetry.
yeah, I feel like this could be good for, this is a really balanced. Like I could have a nice conversation with you. Probably it would have more space than normal for me.
Mhm.
Like I don't think I'd be as chatty as I normally am, which could be a
Right.
great
Well,
solution for me.
both of us. I mean, like if we, people can watch other videos, but when we drink, say, a young sheng or some other kind of maybe even aged puers that have a very precise like a tippy puer maybe that has a very energizing quality to it. I mean, it's definitely apparent. I mean, I think that's one of the things about these videos is like, certainly we have to find some aspect to talk about, but just the way it affects the environment in nonverbal terms is a demonstration of what the tea does, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd say, I'm pretty sure this is my third steeping.
Yeah, me too.
And it just has everything that I look for in aged tea personally.
Right.
I feel like for the price, this is a really it's really great. I have other aged teas in my collection, but I don't have any that really cover all of the terrain like this one does. You know, I would say it's similar to, we had the Portal of Miracles. Portal of Miracles is a little bit more, because it was a Shou Puerh, a well aged Shou Puerh. It was a little bit more like, you know,
Right.
a little bit more psychedelic, you know, probably not as grounding and fortifying as this tea, but it's similar in the overall, like the taste and the experience. I'm smelling the tea, even when I was breaking up the tea. So especially for people that like, you know, with the nice thing about aged teas is like you get that kind of naturey experience, you know, not that you don't get with other teas, like maybe with oolongs, you get more of like when you're walking and you smell the flowers. This is kind of like foresty, but like we were saying at the beginning, just really balanced, you know.
Yep.
It has a nice balanced mouthfeel too. I can't really, I don't think I have any criticisms of this tea really.
Yeah,
I will say,
the only criticism I could think of, but it would be a hypothesis, is there may be a time of year when I wouldn't choose this as my first tea.
where you wouldn't.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that this isn't like so much a summer tea,
Right.
probably.
I mean, you can obviously, we always try everything all the time, but I definitely find that throughout the seasons, I will naturally tend toward a certain type of tea for the season, and then I'll drink everything else too. But you know, there's a particular profile that I'll gravitate toward that more resonates with what's going on in the environment. So this definitely then becomes a late spring, fall, winter.
So most of the year.
Towards. Right, exactly.
Especially
Yeah, I
for
mean,
me more so than you, because I'm
right.
In a more northern climate.
Right.
I will say that there is with the complexity, and because there's a lighter fermentation, that you do get some of those qualities as you get deeper into the leaf that are like the greener qualities. Still well aged, so you get most of that, like that depth, but you do get some like, at least I am experiencing some tanginess, a little bit of sour notes, ripe fruit.
Right. Yeah, I can agree with that. It's very subtle.
Yeah, it's definitely not in the forefront. I think it's a pleasant, like there's
it's a complexity. It adds to the complexity, but it's not it's not in the forefront of like what you're experiencing. But yeah, I think that showed up around the third steeping.
Yeah. It's nice though. I really, I would say that it's more similar to an aged Shou Puerh or certain types of Liu Baos that I've had. If I were to try to put it in a vibe category for someone, if they mostly drink Shou Puerh, I think that they would enjoy this. It would be a different kind of
Right.
Shou
Yeah.
Puerh in their collection. But if they look for really, like the oily black teas or whatever, this isn't that, but it gives you the same satisfaction, but with more complexity. And you kind of feel, I feel a little bit like it has a special quality to it, that it feels like it's not the cheapest tea, but it's also not that expensive for what it is. Like it's giving me the aged tea experience. It's technically a 90s tea, even though it's late 90s, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that it really does, it's a 20-year aged tea. And
Yep.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm getting deeper into like the coziness of it. I feel like this, like I feel some like creative inspiration. I could see myself getting immersed in some kind of creative activity.
Yeah.
How is it
Well,
for you?
for me, I feel like it's more contemplative. But again, I feel like that points to the balance, how balanced it is, because it's moving through us personally and in in line with what our personalities are. It's not necessarily making us depart from our personalities, which tea can do.
Yes. Yeah, it can have, the tea itself can have such a strong personality that it kind of overtakes the situation.
Which is a beautiful aspect of tea that you can learn through experience and certainly with serving. When people show up and you can tell that they're kind of off where they want to be, and that's how you bring them back. So this tea would not be used in that way because it doesn't provide that directionality to it, a strong directionality.
I'd say
But you could do that first and then do it after. Do this after.
Yeah, I think that this it would definitely, if you were having a combination of teas, that this could definitely bring you back into balance. Yeah, and with that said, like if people that are sensitive to caffeine and like the stimulating aspect of tea, I think
this is not super stimulating at all.
Yeah,
in that
which
regard.
is great,
Yeah.
because you have been having not much tea, right? So
yeah,
it's cool. Like I've been having it regularly. You've pretty much been taking breaks. So how would you say for you, considering that you've had some space away from it, how's it?
yeah. Considering that I have not drank tea of any kind with caffeine in 2 months, this is a great tea to be coming back to, because it has all of the things that I like about this tea experience, but it doesn't have that. And I like when I want it, I like that energizing quality too. But this one is not, the more sensitive and in tune and develop my relationship with the very specific stimulating language of that tea has, the more I appreciate when it's very subtle.
Yeah.
Because I've always been somewhat sensitive to it. Like young shungs, I've never really gotten along with them. It just doesn't. I like them. I can appreciate them, and it's not all young shung, because sometimes they're not. They don't follow the norm, but
Your audio dipped out.
1 second.
There we go.
Oh,
Your audio got,
my AirPods died. 1 second.
okay.
All right, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, your audio got young Sheng.
Yeah, my AirPods died, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the thing is like generally certain types of tea, different folks are going to gravitate towards different overall styles of tea, but within each style there could be a couple outliers that really, oh wow, I really like this tea. I don't normally drink Taiwanese oolongs, but wow, this one is really, I really like this one. Or, you know, but if for anyone that likes aged tea, most people I know appreciate a good aged tea. I could see most people enjoying this tea.
This is definitely one without question people should have. It's because it's a great tea.
And I know for you, like that you generally kind of some of the you along with other people that I know maybe aren't as into some of the larger leaf teas.
Well, I find that they're not as strong as I'd like them to be.
But wouldn't you say though?
No, I don't have any complaints about this. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I also feel similar sometimes with large leaf teas that, oh, I get some sweetness. Like you get sweetness with this tea.
Yeah.
There's a lingering sweetness that is very, very pleasant. But sometimes with the larger leaf teas, you don't get the strength. You get a little bit more of that kind of mellow quality, which is nice. You know, I know that Happy Trails from Global Tea, it is also a similar tea to this,
Right.
but it has more of that, like you can tell it's a larger leaf tea. Like it's mellowing. It's probably even more relaxing than this tea, but probably because this is lighter, more likely for me.
Are you thinking of the same tea? I feel like you're talking about Autumn Bridge. Because Happy Trails, I mean, I haven't had Happy Trails in a while, but as I recall it, I would say that it's more energizing than this tea.
Oh, well, you've had Happy Trails more, and that's probably why it's happy.
But Autumn Bridge, I remember both of us, which was also another cake like that, and also, I think larger leaf. We were like, oh, this is the sleepy time tea. Yeah. Like if you want to go.
Happy Times, they could have called it Sleepy Times, but it probably is not as compelling as calling it Autumn Bridge. But yeah, you're right. I think I'm more so thinking.
And as such, I have not drunk much of Autumn Bridge because that's not the type of tea that I go for. Like, you know, but yeah, one of the things I'm noticing in my experience with this tea, given that I have not worked with it for so long, is, and this is something that's always interested me about working with any plant medicine, is like that. What happens in the transition from ground zero to something to being on? And I find that I'm not being away from something and then coming to it after a while is a great opportunity to notice that in very clear detail, because when I'm doing something daily or near daily, you kind of get habituated to a lot of, and you perception wise, you don't necessarily notice in detail how much you do if you've been away from something. And so to me, with this tea, like it was very clear to me the how it came on and turned on, you know. But I feel like if I was drinking a tea that was more energized at this point, it would have been too much.
Yeah.
But with this tea, it was very gentle. I definitely noticed that it was energizing and it was warming, and the clarity. I will also say it brought a sense of clarity. But it stopped exactly where I needed it to stop before it would be discomfort, providing discomfort. And this is all a very subtle thing. Like I never feel uncomfortable with tea, but there's like certain places I don't necessarily want to go if, but I'm always willing to go there if that's what's happening,
Yeah. So what that tells me is that there's a maturity balance, versatility, like the fact that the transitions seem to be very smooth, because some tea, transition starts with tea, right?
Right.
Some transitions can be pretty like, it's kind of like with certain, with other drinks,
Right.
maybe matcha or coffee. There's
yeah.
an immediate, like almost like that's kind of what people like about it, is the immediate shift, because it's kind of cool when you have like an immediate thing.
Right.
But then oftentimes with that kind of experience, you'll have an immediate other thing.
Right.
So you have to kind of just be okay in relationship with the this is just great because I feel like I kind of just came on in a very nice, like kind of incline, and I'm still riding that arc.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm glad that we got this tea, and it's cool that this was your tea kind of coming back after some time away. Because I even feel for me how this tea is different than other teas that I've been having, and I appreciate what it's providing me. How much leaf is in your pot, would you say? How is your,
I think it's probably about 60%.
So it opens.
No, it's probably, no, it's not that much. 45% full.
So it does. I noticed for me that it opened up even more than.
Yeah, it opened up a lot. Yeah.
Because my pot is probably 60 full. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's very, yeah, it opened like mine. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, yours is pretty full.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're probably getting a little bit slightly darker brew than me at this point. I mean, mine's still, it's still going strong. And that's another thing that I don't appreciate about a lot of large leaf tea, is it doesn't seem to have that focus. It doesn't seem to have that longevity.
To have that. Wow. Well, yeah, that's the thing, is like, well, it does have the longevity often, but you never really get that.
It has the energetic longevity, but it doesn't have, the flavor.
You don't get that like sad, like, because that's the thing that I feel like that we look for in tea is the satisfaction piece. Right. And that can be an illusory quality. Everyone has a different kind of relationship with what is satisfying, but for me, I look for balance. I look for a tea that has longevity, a tea that has a certain amount of potency, and the quality of the material itself. This tea has all those qualities, and yeah, I think for, it's not always easy to find like a tea like this in the, it can be like a needle in a haystack, with the fact
that's unique.
Yeah. And yeah, this tea keeps delivering, and I feel like the complexity continues. There's more and more personality as you get into the later steepings.
Yeah.
So if we were to kind of summarize some things.
Well, I think you just did.
You did, right?
You just summarized it.
Who's this tea good for? I think we already talked about that. I think we pretty much, I think this tea is definitely a tea that you could use intentionally for certain things, or you could just casually enjoy this tea as well. That's another thing, is like some teas, you know, you might like the descent into truth. That's not so much I'm going to casually enjoy this tea. This is kind of like, it demands a certain amount. Like you should probably
It's like,
set up your space.
yeah, it's like having different teachers in college. You know, some teachers, you know, are super harsh, but ultimately they teach good lessons. You know, and some are very flowy and like more creative, create a space for you to explore yourself in a container.
Yes.
They're not necessarily, they're not going to push you,
Yeah.
but they're inviting and encouraging, and you can either follow that or not, you know. But again, I think balance is definitely a word that we keep coming back to, and I think this is balance between the two. It's not completely devoid of directionally showing something,
Yeah.
but it's definitely not forceful about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
What are we on? 6, 7, 6?
Somewhere around there. I think that's another good thing, is like losing count of.
Right.
I normally don't keep count, but it does feel. It's still giving me.
Well, I guess this is I think a quart, and I'm probably down here, and it's still, I wouldn't say, it's definitely past its peak, but it's not water. It's still producing flavor and stuff.
I think that this would be a really good tea for someone that wants to have a nice tea, something special, but that it'll probably increase their confidence in brewing, because it's like, it's not that hard to brew. It's very approachable.
I think this is a great holiday gathering tea. Like if you're getting together with family and maybe they've never had tea like this before, this is a perfect tea to bring people from disparate places together.
And it would not conflict with the eggnog. You know, or the whiskey, you know, or whatever.
Well, just don't mix them at the same time.
Probably not at the same time, though.
Yeah.
But I would say that I completely agree with you. I think this is a great holiday gathering tea. And
we didn't even plan that.
What did you say?
We didn't even plan that.
We didn't.
Oh.
We didn't even plan that. It's the magic, right? Yeah. So what's the tea? Magic, the Gathering. No, I'm just kidding. I used to play that a lot. It's a great game. Yeah. It's funny because we called it. Our nickname for this tea is 999, because that's not really a nickname, because that's kind of 999. It's like you have to.
Yeah, I think it can get a better name.
Yes, but we would just call it that because of the.
It was a working title.
Yeah.
999 light.
Yeah.
It's very laborious to say.
Very laborious, which this tea is not laborious, so it would not be the best name for it. I would say like Scandinavian furniture, or
well, I think that the blending the concept of the Scandinavian furniture, because to me I think, okay, we come down to it, there's a good blend and balance between the sensual aspects of this tea and the subtle aspects. So we get into thinking about, okay, what is it about the Scandinavian furniture? Because you could just say fresh wood.
Yeah.
But the addition of the Scandinavian, it brings up pictures and visions of I'm in a forest, there's a fire going.
Yeah.
So there's a feeling of comfort and relaxation,
Minimalism too.
cozy. I think cozy is a great quality that goes with this tea. Like comforting, cozy, balance. But then also, yeah, the sensual aspects of scent, smell, and taste should be represented.
I think that's a good visual. Is that like
Cabin in the Woods.
yeah, but not like the movie, which is a horror movie. But
is that a horror movie?
yeah, it's
Okay.
actually a really good one. I don't, even though I love metal and darker things, I don't watch a lot of horror movies. But yeah. Anyways,
Yeah,
it's
we don't want to evoke.
Yeah, but before that was a movie. Yeah, just like there's a quaintness that, and you know, from a distance you might see the starkness of the snow and the quiet. There's a quietude and an insular quality.
What about snow-covered earth?
It's pretty cool.
Well, here's an interesting backstory to that. Okay, so when I was recently in England doing the thing with the orchestra,
Yeah.
there came a point where I was like, oh, I'm going to do this again. Let me start re-listening to compositions and see which ones I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one that came really strongly as a yes that I want to record with an orchestra is something that I wrote back in 1999 called Snow Covered Earth.
Oh, wow.
And it's a unique piece in my canon because it's very specifically trying to paint the picture of that scene through music, like for example using sleigh bells and trying to use a wood block to represent the horse's hoof beats, and the clarinet playing a line where it's like mimicking a snowflake floating in the wind kind of thing. But it's interesting for me that that particular piece came as a very strong yes, because it's hard. Since then I've compiled like an hour and a half's work of music that I've written that I need to whittle down somehow to like 20 minutes that I want to record, but it's hard to choose between all these because I like all of them for different reasons. So I'm not clear yet, but that one was the first one that I thought of, and it was really the one that initiated the idea that I want to do it again, and it was the first one that was clear.